Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Tiki with Ray Live. I am in Gig Harbor Audio.
Yes.
And the reason why I had to think about that is because I was actually on a podcast here called the Harbor Gig Podcast. So I keep on messing it up. Gig Harbor Audio. And introduce yourself to the audience out there.
Eric from Gig Harbor Audio.
This is Eric from Gig Harbor Audio. And what is Gig Harbor Audio? Like, what do you guys do here?
This store is a little shop that I opened up the street, and people just kept on coming in. Matt is one of them. Ann is one of them. Dan is one of them. Doug and Catherine are one of them. John is one of them. And it just, like, everyone who works here, from George, Jonathan, Gabe, Kyle, everyone, they just kept walking in. And it created a kind of a group of people who do things around stereos, speakers, TVs, everything.
And you sell high-end
We sell
musical
low
equipment.
to high. Everything in between. If it makes music, then it's cool, and it can be expensive or inexpensive. If it's fun, it
And
is
you
in
fix
here.
things.
I find people who fix things. we hire people who fix things, like George.
You also have a lot of vinyl here.
Yes.
Originally, like I thought, like okay, you have a lot. You were saying that you have a lot of exotic albums and stuff like that, and but you're thinking like let's take this into a different. You know, you got your Lex Baxters, you got your Martin Denny's, and we could talk about those.
Yep.
But you figured, like, why don't we talk about albums and other things that are inspired by or adjacent to Tiki? And we're going to do that, and we have a stack of records here. But before we go down that rabbit hole, we do have to talk about this album here. And this is actually the very best of Martin Denny, and it's actually autographed by Martin Denny himself. So tell us about that.
So this album, Martin Denny gave to my parents. I assume they bought it and had him sign it. I think that they got it in Kauai when we had a condo in Kihei on Maui, and we'd go there every year. So this, if it was 1978, we had gone to Maui, and then this is what I recall, they might dispute it, that they put me on a plane. So we were there 2 weeks, and then they put me on a plane by myself, like 8 years old, back to Gig Harbor, and they went further to Kauai for a week. And they're like, oh, it'll be fine. Your grandma's gonna meet you. All the stewardesses know that you're special kid. You're gonna be flying back all by yourself. None of the stewardesses paid any attention. And I was freaked out. This really nice lady sat next to me, and I remember my parents gave me this Star Wars coloring book. And so I was filling this out, like all freaked out. But anyway, it turned out fine. My grandma did meet me there. But
Give
anyway,
the Star Wars coloring book. It'll be fine.
you'll be fine. Have a couple gin and tonics on the plane. So, but this was my introduction to what I now, understand as Tiki music.
Cool.
This is really
Wow.
Tiki music. Everything kind of comes from this, but the idea is that it's very simple instruments, vibraphone, very simple percussion, not much singing. There's a little bit of guitar, a little bit of bass, and then there's sounds in there, like
Sound
birds.
effects.
Yeah, there's like birds.
Cool.
How'd that go? Eric, how'd that go?
Nature.
Like a dinging of a bell, that you hear on a dock or I don't know what, but it sounds like Tiki.
And the thing is that it's called Exotica.
Yeah.
And here's the interesting thing about Exotica music. So this is the very best of Martin Denny. But Martin Denny put out a couple albums, Exotica 1, 2, and 3. Now the interesting thing is, when people thought of exotic or exotica back in the mid-century, it wasn't just music from like the South Pacific. Exotic was the Orient or Morocco, like Egypt. So if you bought any of those albums, he'd have songs that were very Polynesian feeling. And then he'd have other songs that were very Oriental sounding and Morocco sounding. And these were all places that were considered the Orient and exotic because most people couldn't get to those places in their lifetime.
Yeah.
So that's why you had the escapism. That's why, you would listen to this music and maybe make yourself a Mai Tai and that's as close as you're going to get to Hawaii as it would be.
Yeah.
So,
Which
escapism.
immediately makes me think of the tie-in with mid-century design, mid-century modern architecture, extremely influenced by Japanese Asian design.
Yeah.
So it's like far-reaching, and
Yes.
It's all.
I mean, that's the thing about Tiki. It's like a whole hodgepodge of a lot of different. They pulled from a lot of different places and cultures to create this whole thing that's called Tiki. And it ain't like they called it Tiki. It would have been tropical. It would have been like Polynesian, but that's what it is. And music was part of that equation. Mm-hmm. So, this seems like.
Yeah.
So what's the story with this?
That's really no story.
Full
This
on?
is just kind of like a compilation of Hawaiian music. I think there's Cher on there, and it's a pretty good one, Sonny and Cher. There's Brother Jack McDuff, which is a really good, beautifully recorded. That's one thing about Tiki music.
Yeah.
And why do we listen to Tiki music or Sergio Mendes, Bossa Nova, anything like that? It's beautifully recorded.
Oh, yeah.
It's really simply recorded, and it's usually recorded on really good old analog stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why it sounds good on expensive speakers.
Oh my God! Well, I'll tell you what. Like any Martin Denny sounds beautiful. Like my favorite song from Martin Denny is a song called "Love Dance," and hearing that on vinyl and on an amazing sound system, unbelievable. Like stereophonic, it's just great. It's funny. So the song that Cher does on this is "Sitting on the Dock at Bay."
Yeah.
But my favorite song from Sonny and Cher is
Wow.
"It's Gonna Rain Outside." Because I'm like, yeah, that's the story of living in the Pacific Northwest. Oliver Nelson. How is this related to Tiki?
It's not necessarily, but I think all jazz is kind of like a foundation of most Tiki music structure.
Okay.
Like Herb Alpert, Sergio Mendes, Lenny D, all of the ones that we're talking about.
Well, Lenny D.
Yeah. This particular album, this actual album, is a fond one, I would say, because in the last Tiki podcast that we did down there, one of our very good friends, Delmas, was there, and he died about a year ago, maybe a little bit less. And we had a great memorial kind of party for life for him here, and that particular album, everyone who came here signed it.
There are ties to jazz and exotica.
Oh, yeah.
And in fact, I think if I was to consider exotic any type of music, it would be jazz. Mm-hmm. But yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like you go back in time before rock and roll took over. It's like the 50s. That's what people were listening to. Jazz was the prominent type of music that most people were listening to, or country and western or whatever, or classical, or how much is that dog in the window? So jazz was a big part, and it's just kind of like you talk about rock and roll. There's a lot of different types of rock and roll. There was a lot of different types of jazz.
I think there's one thing about jazz that what I hope real Tiki music also had.
Yeah.
I think of real jazz is more kind of like the Grateful Dead, which I'm not a super big fan of. I think it's just fine. But it's more of a conversation among musicians rather than a written down song structure.
Yeah.
So you've got these great musicians in a room, and it's different if you're performing. You're performing a song, and it's out there. This is the song. You're the bass player that I hired, and you're going to get it spot on, right?
Yeah.
But real jazz in a jazz club where it's smoky and people are having a really nice time to escape from something, those 3 or 4 people up there are conversing with themselves or among
to
themselves.
their instruments.
And you're watching these phrases go back and forth. And that's kind of what I think of as good tiki music. You could have these musicians, really any type of music, it's like a jam.
Yeah.
You're watching these phrases go around.
Yeah.
So I think that's the foundation that jazz gave to tiki and many other things.
Okay.
Or many other genres of music.
So how the hell does Star Wars come into play?
So when I was looking through...
Is your connection is because they gave you the Star Wars coloring book on Back to... Is that the connection? Is that the reason why the Star Wars scene...
Besides the Tiki with Ray podcast that I watched a couple days ago, that was Ray talking about these really cool Star Wars Tiki mugs.
Oh, yeah.
Besides that, I think there's other things about your memory of, the past. Christmas is one of them. Even if you're not Christian or Catholic or anything, there's this culture of this type of music that is something that makes you feel good, usually, and you look back on it. Star Wars is a pretty ingrained cultural phenomenon.
Yes,
at least the first 1 or 3 of those movies.
Well, your daughter says that they're all worthless after Return of the Jedi.
Well, she's not wrong.
She's not wrong.
She's...
After the third one, right?
For a 15-year-old, she gets it. Yeah.
But here's the thing, you're right, though. Like, I've been into Star Wars since 1977 when the first movie came out. And as a kid, and when I got into Star Wars, I got into Star Wars. And you want to talk about Tiki is escapism. Star Wars is escapism. Oh my God. I mean, like, talk about, like, just transporting yourself to, like, a galaxy far, far away. Now they're combining Star Wars and Tiki, and I think that's cool. And I think the situation is there's a lot of people that are into Tiki that are also into Star Wars. Let's bring these things together. But fun fact, the story goes that George Lucas used to go to the Tiki Tea, which is my favorite tiki bar in Los Angeles, and it's this very, very small bar. It's literally the size of, like, this room. And supposedly, like, that inspired him to do the cantina with all the characters.
Nice.
So that's what I hear. So, and if that is true, Star Wars and Tiki are definitely...
Yeah, it's true.
It's definitely connected.
It's true.
They're definitely connected.
Yeah.
So what's this one here? Volume... What is this?
So this one, I would say, kind of falls into the category of that Hawaiian Paradise one with Sonny and Cher. This is similar to it is Enoch Light.
Enoch Light and his orchestra.
Enoch Light.
Not Electric Light Orchestra.
No, totally different.
Yeah, I'd say so.
All of this music, like Enoch Light.
But how cool would it be is if Electric Light Orchestra did a Tiki album?
That would be cool.
Yeah.
They could do it. They have the. I think they have the chops to do that.
Be catchy, Jeff Lynne. Yeah, it'd be a good match. This particular album, the reason why it is so interesting is because it's not only a beautiful recording, but it was recorded on 35mm film.
What?
Which you can, I don't know the actual process, but whenever you see an album that says recorded on 35mm film, like all Enoch Light is, it's just got this like saturation, and it's like really rich and beautifully recorded.
Wow.
It's a different type of 35mm magnetic film.
It says here, anyone who has not heard this fantastic recording might be justified in thinking that these were, at the very least, over-enthusiastic statements.
They're not. Yeah.
Are we going to listen to some tonight?
Yes, we'll put it on.
Cool.
Nat King
Depending
Cole?
on how much we drink.
So, all right. You're losing me here. Nat King Cole with a Christmas album?
There's a few different genres of music that people go to, not everyone,
Yeah.
to feel good. And I remember one of the very first collections of albums that I bought at like a garage sale.
Okay.
That I remember going through them and thinking, wow, this is all music that this guy, like I knew the guy, he was like a neighbor of a neighbor.
Yeah.
And we went through, he had a beautiful H.H. Scott amplifier, which was exactly like the one over there in the corner. That tube amp over there, that integrated. So he listened to good music. And his record collection, he had tons of Hawaiian, Polynesian, different things, and he had a bunch of Hawaiian music in like really good condition.
Okay.
And then some other jazz and blues and stuff. But I just remember thinking, those are very similar types of, now, of course, we start listening to Hawaiian music in August.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's half the year that you're listening to Hawaiian music, at least in a store.
Yeah.
It starts pumping through. But the really good Christmas music, like Nat King Cole, like that one Nat King Cole, I think you played it at one of your record playings.
Yeah.
It's just beautifully recorded. It's great, standards. It's like jazz standards. Everyone knows these songs, and different people play them in their own way.
You're right. You're right. Because they create a mood. And now I think about it, like the holidays can be escapism. In a way.
Absolutely.
I mean, people decorate their homes.
Yeah, Hawaii especially. Hawaii has a real strong, at least tourist Hawaii,
Yeah.
has a really strong tie-in with Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to like the Hyatt Regency on Maui, anywhere from November to the end of January, it's Christmas.
The day after Thanksgiving.
I think ultimately, like people like to escape. I think people like to get away,
No kidding.
and I love to be,
Especially
full immersion.
today.
Seriously.
You're right. I mean, when it comes to like Christmas, like there's people I know are really, really into Christmas, and like it takes over their lives for like those 2 months.
Yeah.
The only thing about Christmas though is like
Jessica doesn't really like Christmas music.
I don't like Christmas music.
I know what she
I don't
likes.
either.
She likes Black Sabbath,
Yeah.
The Clash,
You're on the Christmas music.
The Clash.
Now,
Okay.
I'll immediately put these two albums in group. This
No,
is
what's this?
the Clash. This is a band called Leningrad, which is Russian. It's Russian. It's the Russian people, not the Russian government.
Yeah.
Just to keep that separate. By the way, many Russian musicians have left Russia
That's right.
because of,
Yeah.
they don't agree with whatever.
Creatives would leave.
Yeah. So the reason that these, and it's perhaps more of a reach,
It's okay.
but
Like the Star Wars album, was it?
yeah, this one might be a little bit less easy to understand if you don't know the album. The Clash is easier because it's a good example of really a rock and roll band that started going into other genres like reggae.
Yep. Absolutely.
Ska, reggae, and it completely opened up different things. Like, Mick Jones went to do Big Audio Dynamite, and it's pretty darn close to Tiki music. Big Audio Dynamite's like, drum machine Tiki. And this album and Sandinista is like, you can just see him. It's like looking at Sgt. Pepper, like, whoa, I'm watching these people like change into different genres.
Interesting.
That's why I grabbed those.
Now, very adjacent.
So that's like a loaded one.
Very, very.
We can just like throw that off to the side because that's every podcast talks about.
Very Tiki adjacent,
Probably.
though,
Yeah.
is Herb Albert.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be out of place to hear this in a Tiki bar.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
What do you think of that invitation? But Herb, I mean, the thing about this album is like, I remember seeing this album eventually. And then you realize, like, I've heard all these songs at one point or another. Because they're all just so embedded in the culture. But here's the thing. if you probably had Martin Denny or Les Baxter in your collection, this was right alongside it.
Yeah.
Or Esquivel, or any of these musicians. Again, this is when did this come out? Is this like 60s, early 60s, something like that?
Probably.
And I'm guessing like a lot of people had this album. Yeah,
Everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's a staple.
it's definitely a staple. Or was it because there's a hot chick that's covered in that's naked with
That
whipped
too,
cream on her?
But she's from Washington.
Could you imagine like
Yeah.
she's from Washington?
Yeah, she lives south of here. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
She lives in Kelso. Her name's Dolores.
Is she still alive?
Yeah, totally.
So Dolores, if you want to come on Tiki with Ray, I would love to have you. You don't have to have the whipped cream on you,
Yes.
but I would.
So
Really?
Yeah.
Kelso?
Really?
Yeah. And she sometimes, I heard, gives little kind of meet and greets discussions at a record store in Kelso.
She needs to come here. Is what she needs to do.
Yeah, she might have.
I'll pick her up.
Oh, she should. Yes,
Yeah,
she should.
Here.
Yeah, if you're so if you're listening to this podcast or watching
I
this,
heard-
we'll pick you up from Kelso and bring you up here.
I heard that she was covered in whipped cream because she was pregnant.
Oh.
Awkward.
Yeah. Awkward.
Shows up for the photo shoot and
All right, are you ready for the big picture? Yeah, kind of got a little problem here. What's that?
Whipped cream.
that's okay. That's
So
okay.
who came up with the whipped cream? Her or some other guy?
Just desserts.
Because that's a lot of whipped cream.
That's a lot of
Like,
And is it whipped cream?
yeah,
Or is it like something else? Like cotton or something?
like shaving cream.
Could be shaving cream.
But the music of this, I mean, really the point is, like the artist that you listed off, that someone might have in their record collection.
Yep.
You put this on, and it's like, you feel pretty good. It's
Yep.
really good, lighthearted standards.
Yep.
Jazz standards that are kind of made pop. You know, you put this on the hi-fi and you make a cocktail.
There is a song on here called Whipped Cream. So, who's this?
This is a really good Japanese singer. It really doesn't have a lot to do with Tiki, other than I thought it was a great pressing of music that's not often released. So this is by a company in Seattle called Light in the Attic, and they find amazing artists. Like they found they did it for Rodrigo, right? Rodrigo. I don't know if anyone saw that, the Sugarman,
That was
Searching for Sugarman.
Yeah.
They did that album. They repress tons of stuff. They do a lot of Japanese artists, and it's like really beautifully recorded, and they just, release them.
Cool.
Yeah, they're good. Oh, I should have grabbed a James Bond one.
Jazz. What's this?
So that's Jazzmatazz.
Good.
Jazzmatazz.
Yeah, I don't know if it really has much to do with Tiki, but it should.
It should.
It's kind of it's hip hop based on samples from people like old jazz like Donald Byrd and really good jazz that he made samples, and he's a DJ
Yeah.
and just made really good songs and rapped over 'em.
See, there you go. All the you rap artists out there, what you should do is you should rap over some Exotica music. Rap over some Les Baxter or some Quiet Village. Doom 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 doom
I was
doom
just about to say.
doom 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 doom
Well, there's
doom
probably
doom
some,
yeah doom
there's
doom
probably
doom
some
doom.
Tiki in my beautiful twisted fantasy.
By far.
Like it's
By
like
far. But Kanye
great.
would be the one to do it.
Yeah, he'd be the one to do it.
Now, an album that is, and a woman who is very close to my heart,
Yeah.
Astrid Gilberto.
Yes. Yeah.
And
That's an easy one.
we were talking off stage, and it's like, off stage. As much as I love Exotica music, and I do love Exotica music, I am really, really into bossa nova music. I love bossa nova music. I love the drive that it has. Her voice is beautiful.
It is.
I'm a big Walter Wanderley fan, but she was my gateway into bossa nova music. And this is a great album, and I'll tell you what, if you're into exotica, there's a damn good chance you're probably going to be into bossa nova music too. And I think it fits very, very well in a tiki bar.
Yeah, it's you wouldn't even notice. If you're playing Martin Denny and then bossa nova, this is the same bar.
And it's all around the same time. I mean, like when you talk about Herb Albert, a lot of the exotic music that came out, a lot of the bossa nova, we're talking like late 50s, early 60s. You know, great stuff. One last album. What's this?
So this is the Easy Star All Stars. I think one or maybe two of them is from the Wailers, like Bob Marley and the Wailers. They tour.
No, wait, they're doing Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon?
Yeah, so this album
We gotta hear
Dubside On The Moon.
is Dubside On The Moon. They did the entire album
They did.
reggae.
It's a reggae
Yeah.
version.
It's a reggae version, the entire album. They did Sgt. Pepper, they did Thriller,
You said we
they
tried
do,
This guy.
a bunch of different ones. This is it's a beautiful album. It is the entire Dark Side of the Moon,
I'd like to listen.
completely redone with really good bass player, really good drummer, great guitar, and the singer does the whole thing. With sound of a bong in the background.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. You can hear the water. Yeah, you can hear.
Yeah.
I think the thing I think the main point that you're talking about though with all this is music. Good music is escapism.
Yeah. Yes.
Certain music brings back memories. Like you're talking about the Christmas music. I mean, if I hear the Star Wars soundtrack, I'm gone.
Yeah. I think it's past and future. It's what makes a discussion of something like Tiki have legs.
Yeah.
Like it had a resurgence.
Yep.
It's an interesting thing that is much more than the Wikipedia description of Tiki culture.
Yeah.
It's like growing, and it's really interesting, and people contribute to it, and it gets bigger and bigger.
I agree. I was
These weird ass people who do podcasts about it.
well, I just do it for the free booze, you know. That's exactly the reason why I do it. But
We faxed you your invoice already.
oh, good. That's another thing that I do love about Tiki is that like it isn't just a bar. I mean, yeah, there's the cocktails, and that's one aspect of it. But you have the environment, you have the music, you have the clothing, you have the art, you have the tikis themselves. There's so much more to it than just drinking rum. Although I love drinking rum.
It's a frequency.
It's the frequency.
That's right.
And I'll tell you what, if anyone, so you're here in Gig Harbor, do you have a website? Are you on the socials at all? Or
No.
no?
Yes, just Gig Harbor Audio.
Gig Harbor Audio.
Yeah.
You do have a Facebook page though, right? So you're on Facebook. You have a website.
Yeah.
GigHarborAudio.com.
.com.
And Instagram.
And Instagram.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, come down here and check out this place. And you have a lot of music for people to play. And I'm sure you'll be happy to play the Star Wars soundtrack for someone if they want to hear it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or...
We'll try to get her.
Yeah. What's your name? Dolores?
Dolores.
Dolores, you want to come on my show? You don't have to wear the whipped cream. Thank you all for coming out, and I hope you all had a great time.
Thank you.
Let's do some drinking. Long time no see, Jessica.
How's it going?
I thought you would have gotten here sooner since you have that Porsche.
I don't have the Porsche anymore. I traded it for a bunch of motorcycles.
A bunch, plural motorcycles.